but I think we're live already.
Okay.
But I'm gonna double check and make sure that's real.
So no talking crap about anybody right now.
Yeah, maybe avoid that. All right, friends, we are here. And I'm gonna make sure I tweet live now. We did it. All right, friends, welcome back to Attack the Pantry. I am Jen De La Vega. This stream is a deep dive into ingredients, cooking techniques, and recipes to help you cook for yourself during this quarantine and, the rest of your adult life. Last time on the stream, we talked to musician Chris Kaiser about spicing up vegan and vegetarian foods. So you can watch all of those past clips here on this channel if you click on videos. The entire archive is located at youtube.com/JENNDLV, and make sure to subscribe there. I am a Twitch affiliate. You can subscribe for free to any channel on Twitch if you connect your Amazon Prime account. If you click on the purple button that says gift a subscription, you will get a cute little crown next to your name in the chat. There are lots of really good links below the video to support the stream. One way to help me out is to tell people that you're watching right now and to live tweet some of the really helpful advice that we're going to tell you. Also, it helps people understand that the stream's going on and they can join and learn with us. But all of the business aside, I want to welcome my guest. Hello, guest. Who are you and what do you do?
Hello, my name is Leah Haberman. I am a teacher and also a media consultant. I teach influencer marketing and social media marketing at UCLA Extension. I also work for different brands. We were just talking prior. Last year, I was doing some work for Riot and helping them with some social media workshops and training, personal branding training for their pro gamers. And I work with other creators and brands also on kind of like their social media strategy and marketing strategies.
So this is amazing. So we know each other from the social media industry.
Yes.
And I before this, a lot of people actually don't know this about me. Before I was a chef, I worked at Technicolor, which is a film company, the big film company. At the end of all the movie credits, you see like in Technicolor. So I used to work on a visually oriented creator app under Technicolor, and that's kind of where I cut my teeth on the social media candy bar. But yeah, I'm still excited by social media, even though it's not my professional job. Obviously, I still use a lot of it to promote this show. Leah, can you share with me sort of your journey? Like, how did you get into social media, and what were kind of like the big milestone steps that you took to get there?
The big milestone steps. Well, okay, I was around at kind of like the onset of social media. I was actually working for E at the time, E Entertainment Television.
What?
And yeah, and I remember I was working on their digital side, and I remember like, Twitter and Facebook all of a sudden becoming things that we were like, somebody needs to do this job. Like we need accounts. And this is like way back in the day. And so being part of like involving of like setting up those accounts and then slowly realizing that I felt like the people that were doing social were having more fun than I was having. So I was like, okay, I want to do that. And so then just kind of moving into those roles, still usually working for like a media or an entertainment company or like some sort of like, lifestyle entertainment, gaming company, but focused very much on not what they were doing on their own websites, but very much like where they were appearing on Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook, wherever, like now maybe Twitch, TikTok, Clubhouse. And so just kind of like evolving. One of the things, and I see you're like laughing, but I'm like, there has been so much change. But the thing is, things keep getting reinvented. So it's like, I'll see stuff or, I'll work for people and they'll be like, let's try doing this. And I'm like, Facebook did that in like 2014 and it didn't work. So like, think of a different way that we can do this. And sometimes they take your advice and sometimes they don't. And they try and reinvent something that's already been done and it fails. And then you're like, wah, wah, like,
What I say?
yeah, knew that was going to come, but yeah, but I love social. And now I'm very much into, I've kind of transitioned from like just pure social and social media marketing to influencer marketing and working with, primarily I work with creators, kind of like more on the influencer side, as opposed to being like a marketer on the brand side. So that's what I'm teaching, is essentially like looking at influencers and kind of creatorship as like through a lens of entrepreneurship. Like they are business owners, they are building a business just like you are. Oh, sorry, did I cut out for a
no,
second?
you're back. You're back.
Yeah, I mean, like, I mean, I was just saying, like, you are a creator, you're building a bit, this is a business, you're building a business. And so to me, that's what I feel like I'm here, is to like empower creators to look at themselves as like not only content creators, but business people and entrepreneurs and like kind of founders of their own little brands or big brands, depending on who you're working with.
That's great. You're like shepherding people into
Yes.
this new era. I love that. I have a friend who streams earlier in the day. His name is Dandy in the Bronx, and he's more of a fashion influencer. But he's also a Pokemon master. Like way back in the day when you could compete in person at the Nintendo store, or they had an annual sort of conference. He won one year, like he's the Pokemon master. And so he started streaming on Twitch, like, and combining his Instagram influencer tactics to Twitch. And so we talk a lot about the brands that we work with, and like what's a good experience, what's a bad experience, what should we be asking for. And it's really funny because I went from kind of where you were, which was working through social media, and then becoming sort of an influencer in the food world, which I don't like saying about myself. It's like really cringy to me, but it's very funny to reconcile what it is that I make with business decisions. I have to make real life decisions on how I'm going to spend my time and what I invest in as with platforms, and if I am making enough in return to like live. So
Yeah, you are running it like a business. And I think I will just say, like, the cringe part is that I think the word influencer has been so maligned that there is that thing where somebody's like, oh, you're an influencer, and people are like, no, I don't want to be called an influencer, just because like we've associated so many bad things with it. But there are so many different types of influencers. So I think it's like, it's not necessarily bad. It's only bad in the context of, you know, if somebody does like a top worst influencer fails of 2020 or whatever, and then we're like, oh, cringe. But influencer in itself is just somebody who has influence, and that is not a bad word. So I think we just have to take that like negative connotation away from it.
I've always been very like tongue-in-cheek about it too. Like whenever I do have a paid post, it's hello, international butter influencer here. And so I find the humor in it, and the brands I work with are flexible enough and understanding enough to laugh with me.
Right.
So it's been a journey for sure.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, hello, Steph the Bard. Thank you for following today. Hello, Seven Bean Salad. If you're in the chat, please let us know if you're here. And I also have this really cute thing that I do in the chat. Snack check. Let me know what you're snacking on. I love hearing what you're eating. Like I've been snacking on this. I already drank one. Royal milk tea, the finest blend of black tea, which kind of makes me a little shaky. But it has 25% milk. It's a product of Japan. Seven Bean Salad is having some Cheez-It classics. Wonderful. Steph the Bard is having raspberry and cream Kit Kat. I've never had that. Leah, have you ever
Nor
had
have I. No, that sounds really good.
What?
That's got to be overseas. I feel like that's not in the US.
Yeah, I've never seen it. And Gwem is having some little cubes of cheese. Thanks for joining, Gwem. I enjoyed your stream earlier. Gwem is a friend who is in the UK, who was streaming earlier at 2 p.m. Eastern, and he does live music composition on Twitch. And so he, you know, between little loops of what he's working on, he like answers questions about music equipment and the genre, and it's really cool. Oh, Steph, they were a Valentine's treat in the US. I didn't realize. I must have missed this this Kit Kat campaign.
Yeah, me too. I did not see that, because otherwise I probably would have bought some.
Oh my gosh. Steph, if you still have any left, could you like shoot a picture to me on Twitter? I would love to share it next week and be like, does anyone else have these? And speaking of photos, why don't I share what everybody's been up to this week? So I'm going to share my screen. Here's our lovely graphic. Hello, everyone. And if you would like to be featured in this segment of the show, you can just tweet me photos or tag me on Instagram and Twitter. My username is Randwiches. I'm sorry it does not match my Twitch username, but it's kind of impossible to get the one you want on Twitch. I don't know. I applaud anyone who's gotten the username that they've wanted. But let's check it out. We've got some really fun entries this week. This is a pizza dog from Arkwolf. I was streaming last night, and his question to me was, is this a sandwich? Leah, do you have an opinion?
Oh, the hot dog or sandwich question. Can I dodge that and just point out that this is like the most beautiful plate that I have ever seen?
I know, the unicorn.
I love the plate. I don't think it's a sandwich, but I'll just I'm going to focus on the fact that it's a unicorn with sparkles, and I think that is just wonderful.
Actually, a good answer. I also dodged the question when he asked on Twitter because I don't want to take sides, and I also contradict myself when it comes to this argument. Oh no, sorry. I forgot to mute something. I just wanted to make sure that I can see the chat. I cannot look at it when I'm sharing my screen like this. It would make everybody very dizzy. But beautiful plate. I want this. I want it. And I kind of like that he cut the hot dog in half so it would sit flatly on the crust / bread here. So that's like a really good strategic.
This also looks more like a pizza. Like it's like sandwich hot dog or like homemade. This looks like, like when you're a kid and your mom makes you make pizzas on like toasted English muffin with like a little tomato spread and mozzarella. This just looks like a kind of more grown up glamorous version of like the pizza that your mom used to make you make.
For the record, this was for a 4-year-old. So, I mean, beautiful plate, beautiful style.
Yes.
I love this. I want one.
A+ plating.
Dylan made a spicy shrimp pasta. Like, look at all that cheese dusting there. Like, I'm not a huge fan of shrimp, but I do like it when it is spicy. Do you like shrimp? Do you eat seafood?
I do like I like scallops better. I'm more of a scallop person personally, but the way that this is presented just does look delicious and very plentiful. I would say the worst part about shrimp is that usually if you go to a restaurant, it's very skimpy. And I do remember like once going on a date and my date was like, "Can I have one of your shrimps?" And I was like,
No.
I'm sorry, there's not enough to spare. So this, I would say like A+ in terms of just like the bounty of seafood that looks like is in there. Like you're not skipping on the shrimp.
It's a significant amount of shrimp. Good job, Dylan. Eric, he's captioned this baby's first pancit. And so pancit is a Filipino dish that I taught in December with the Museum of Food and Drink. And so I have this recipe up for free on my Patreon, and Eric decided to make it. And it's basically a noodle tossed with a very like hearty vegetable stir fry and soy sauce and lots of garlic. And so I applaud you, Eric, for making the food of my people.
That looks amazing.
Heard of this pancit?
No, I have never, but it looks delicious.
Yeah, I highly recommend pancit because it has over 100 varieties. So it can be stir fry, it can be soupy, it can be a meatball soup, but those are just anything noodly pasta-like in the Philippines is called a pancit, basically.
I appreciate that. Like if there's 100 varieties, it means you can't go wrong. So I feel like that's a good thing. Like,
I mean, it helps that there are like 70 plus islands, and so there's no consensus on the national recipe of what it is, and so welcomes a lot of improvisation and variety, and that's kind of my ethos.
I like that, and I have to say, I'm in LA or like on the West Coast, so it's 2:15 right now, so like there's still time to decide what to make for dinner. So I do appreciate like the inspiration that is that's coming here.
Yeah, that's what this stream is for. Like, don't arrive hungry here because you will get really hungry. Oh, thank you, Chrissy870 for following today. I love it when we get new followers. Growing this channel very slowly and surely. Gigi sent a few photos over. She told me about a serious eats recipe that's for mac and cheese, and it's only 3 ingredients. I've never tried this, but I think it was written by Kenji Lopez Alt and supposedly works. And so I might try this over the weekend.
That's great. And are those Parmesan rinds?
It looks like it, yeah.
So it's like Parmesan. I'm wondering if you're supposed to grate them or if it's just like you put the Parmesan rind in and it kind of like flavors
Maybe
the sauce. Yum.
Yeah. And I do remember reading years ago, Kenji was really into making nacho cheese sauces with evaporated milk because it has this very smooth coagulation. Like it doesn't have like it doesn't separate the cheese as much when you're stirring it. And so I kind of see why he chose that scientifically. But Gigi, good job, and thanks for telling me about this new recipe. Because 3 ingredients, I mean, you can't go wrong. Like,
and if it works, I worked in a test kitchen once a long time ago for like a women's magazine, which I shall not name, but it was like very much aimed at like, it was at the supermarket checkout stand, and it was a food magazine, or had a large portion of it devoted to food. And I worked in the test kitchen, and we would have to create like 3 or 5 ingredient recipes. And once in a while they do work, but when there's like a quota where it's like, oh, we need like 10 5-ingredient recipes or whatever it is, and you're just like making stuff up and you're like, oh God, this is really awful. But so I'm always like very wary when somebody's like, oh, it's only 3 ingredients. But if somebody's tried it and loved it, then that is great because it's kind of got that seal of approval.
Oh, all right. Yeah. Welcome to the chat, the Beyond Luck. Yes. Oh, so confirmed that the Parmesan rinds do flavor the sauce. Saw it on Barefoot Contessa, and she used it for a soup recipe. You tried it and got this really nice nutty flavor. Oh, great. Thank you for some confirmation about the technique there. Gigi also sent this beautiful cabbage. I rarely get to see a lovely cabbage like this at my store, so I just want to marvel at it for a moment.
What kind of cabbage? What variety is this?
I believe this is the Napa cabbage.
Is it a Napa cabbage? Or maybe it's like we're looking top down. I feel like.
Oh wait, no, Napa is the big white one, right?
Yeah, it's like kind of like more long and pale.
Right. So I'm sorry, I was mistaken.
Unless we're looking at it top down and we just don't see, like, it's like the depth perception is kind of off.
No, I think this is the round buddy but it's just got really curly leaves. There's a name and I don't remember what it is. Yeah.
Okay.
This will be a bee in my bonnet for the whole evening.
Like, there's Savoy I'm trying to think of like, there's Savoy cabbage, Napa cabbage.
Is it Savoy? I think
Savoy.
But it's gorgeous.
It is.
Admiring Gigi's knife setup also, and a bench scraper. Like,
that is really impressive.
Beautiful kitchen setup. And I don't know if you see this, the non-stick underneath the cutting board.
Under the cutting board?
Yes. Good non-slip situation. In culinary school, we're taught to put a wet towel or a damp towel underneath the cutting board so it doesn't slide around. But also the drawer non-stick stuff works as well.
There's always something like when you're baking and there's cakes, you're supposed to like put frosting on the plate before you put the cake down so that the cake doesn't slide around. So it's like frosting, like a mat, whatever, paper towel. I like the frosting option just because it's tasty. But ooh.
So this is what that cabbage went into. It's a Northern Italian rice and cabbage soup that's very similar to risotto, but more on the soupy side. And so this is awesome. Like, we're coming out of winter here in New York, but I'd still like slip this in.
That looks amazing.
My cozy.
I love cabbage. I will have cabbage in pretty much anything. Cabbage is just the best.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of just roasting a cabbage steak and then putting a fried egg on that.
Yeah. Oh, cabbage steak. I've had cauliflower steak, that same concept of like cutting like a wedge and then frying it like it was a steak basically. But cabbage steak, okay.
You can do the same
I'm
thing.
game for that.
Yeah, just as long as you didn't cut out that middle core, you can
Okay.
still, it'll stay together. As long as the leaves have been still tightly wound around it.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is great, Gigi. Thank you for sharing with us today. Uh, what is this? Oh, Vance. I did a pastry trade with my friend Vance, who lives in the neighborhood. I traded him a slice of peach clafoutis, and he gave me this very elaborate apple cinnamon bun. It is
Yum.
nicely braided. It had not too much sugar. Like, I'm not a fan of a lot of sugar. I have an adult palate.
Oh, I'm an adult and I love sugar. So if you're a sugar lover, just like we're team sugar. I mean,
I'm more of a savory person.
okay.
But I was super impressed because Vance is just learning how to bake. And so this was like a upper level braiding brioche.
It's beautiful.
Very nice. Very, very nice. The plate, though, is mine.
Nice.
Martin, who's in the chat, sent along the lox bagel. I miss having these every Sunday, so I might go and trek to find one this weekend. I am a huge fan of an everything bagel. Leah, do you have a bagel order?
Yes, but so I'm originally from Canada, from Montreal, and there is no like an everything bagel is a very New York kind of or American concept. In Montreal, which has its very own distinct bagels, like the traditional bagel is a sesame bagel, followed by poppy seed, followed by plain. And then some places you can get an everything bagel, but like I remember when I was a kid growing up, like everything bagel didn't even exist.
Mm,
So I would say sesame, but it's got to be like a Montreal sesame seed bagel is the
fun.
best.
I am a huge fan of Montreal bagels. I have friends who drive up every year to just get the bagels and then come back.
Nice.
It's like an
And
8 hour
for
drive.
yes, I've done that drive a lot of times. For anybody who has never had a Montreal bagel, I think people are probably like, oh, it's a bagel.
Yeah,
It's like a whole different, it's a
not
different
just
texture, different
a bagel.
taste. Just everything. Everything is, it's much more chewy. I've had people like friends in New York say it's more like a little bit more like a pretzel, like a
Mm,
fresh pretzel. It's got that kind of like squeaky, chewy vibe to it.
yeah,
But
squidgy. I love that.
yeah, yeah, it's awesome.
Oh, good. And then this is not food related, and I welcome memes and pop culture uh, observations, but JV sent this one in because there are a lot of just Spider-Man theories flying around because I don't know if you saw this, Leah. Each of the stars of the new Spider-Man movie tweeted a different title of the movie that's coming out. And I thought that was like a brilliant marketing tactic because it got so many people trying to theorize what it
Did
actually
you
is.
see the newest video that they just tweeted out? If you go to my Twitter feed, I think I retweeted it like an hour or two ago. So then they made a follow-up to what you're talking about, where it's a joke where like Tom Holland and Zendaya, and they're all walking out of the production office saying like, oh, so they gave us like basically referencing the fact that they gave them all different campaigns because they knew that they were going to leak it and there were going to be spoilers. So they kind of like put this out as like a like just to foil the spoilers. And I thought it was just like the funniest, most meta, clever way to market something, basically like playing into the fact that there was going to be spoilers. So I am this whole thing. Yes, you're right. It's like I think it's Sony Pictures. I think right.
Yeah, I think so. And then this is like a fan art of Tom Holland, Andrew Garfield, and Tobey Maguire because of one big theory is that all three, it's going to be multiverse, and all three are going to be in the movie. We don't know, but I thought that was such a fun thing to talk about. And I know for a fact they have to work in the Spider-Man meme of them pointing at each other. I feel like they have to do a scene like that.
Okay, side note, and it's so funny. I was just talking about it this weekend. Tobey Maguire. So I have a young son, and Tobey Maguire has kids that I think are similar ages to mine.
Oh.
And when my kid was little, we used to go to this Mexican restaurant that is close to us. and Tobey Maguire would be there with his wife and kids at the same time, because we were there for the like early bird, like 4:00 dinner with like the very little children. So we used to eat dinner next to Tobey Maguire and his wife and kids. So I was like, oh, funny little connection to, like, we never talked. I don't know Tobey Maguire, but it just, we happened to like have had dinner next to each other a couple of times. So
Amazing.
yeah.
I love that. Oh, hello in the chat to our new viewers in the chat. We got Alex, who was streaming earlier. Alex does a variety of different streams. Today was games roulette. So every 20 minutes, Alex changed the game that she was playing. Sometimes it's Animal Crossing and we're just vibing, and she gives us tours of her Animal Crossing island. Sorry, I don't play Animal Crossing, can you tell? But welcome everyone. Toria, glad to see you. And all of our UK friends. Oh, we have a note earlier from Steph. You can also drop those Parmesan rinds in the tomato and pasta sauce when you're making spaghetti and stuff like that. Oh man, yum. Thanks everybody for all the good advice that you're dropping in the chat. But that is Spider-Man stuff. Let me show you what's been going on with me this week, just quickly. This is a Georgian dish called Khachapuri Jaruli. Have you ever had a cheese boat, Leah?
Yes, they have them at LA's farmers market on 3rd and Fairfax. So anybody who goes there will have seen them at the farmers market. So
oh, that's right.
yes.
Oh, I'm from Southern California, so
Yeah. So like in the, you know, in the old part, like of that farmers market, like that's right next to the Grove, kind of that in the farmers market there is a place that sells them. So
I get all of my fruit and produce for my beautiful cheese boards when I'm in California from there. So you get the really lovely, dusty looking grapes and small miniature pears and things like that. But this was a basically pizza dough, and then you just make a hole in the middle and bake a lot of cheese in there, and then when it comes out of the oven you mix in a pat of butter and an egg yolk, so it has this like fondue like texture.
so good. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's really fun. And if you know how to make pizza dough, then you are halfway to knowing that dish. I started catering again, which is a beautiful like a beautiful relief. I have been taking a year off from catering because can't really gather and stuff. But I started doing pickup charcuterie boards from my home, and so people have been ordering for me every week, and this is one of the first ones. I have to thank my friend Isha for kind of getting me out of my rut. She was the one that DM'd me one day and said, hey, I have a friend who is having a hard time. If I gave you X amount of dollars, can you just make a charcuterie board, and can her husband just pick it up from you? And I said, yes. And I loved the feeling of making these again, that I decided to just commit to X amount per week. And so I'm making 2 a week in my neighborhood. And so if people want to pick them up and order from me, just DM me on Instagram. And so there's a sample.
Have you seen, there's a meme going around right now that they're like, what is it? Charcuterie board is just like a fancy Lunchable.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure it's gone around. Like, there's probably been like different iterations, but like a food influencer that I follow, who's also kind of like a friend, she had posted it in her stories last night. And I was just like, like a horror. And she actually makes charcuterie boards. And I was like, how can you compare it to a Lunchable? But I just thought that was funny.
I embrace it. I love that. I grew up with them. I've done a few for clients, like a grown-up Lunchable, like by using and handy snacks. Also, I did handy snacks. Remember with the little red spreader and
oh yeah.
Yeah, so instead of like a processed cheese, I made like a Kentucky beer cheese that was spreadable, and then made these buttery crackers that went with it. And so I very much love like 90s snack foods.
Upgraded.
Yeah. And yes, to answer your question, Toria, those are blackberries. And your earlier question, can I put all the Spider-Mans in my food? They're all dishy. Yes, you may. Nice. Oh, welcome to the stream, Dandy in the Bronx, aka my friend Diego. I love your emotes. again. I'm glad I unlocked all your emotes today. There's this really cute thing that you can do for other people if you're generous. You can gift subscriptions to the people who are all watching. And somebody was really nice during Diego's stream earlier, and I got to unlock all these really adorable emotes for the chat. And so thank you for sharing. And if you subscribe to this channel, you get all of my pixel eggs. That you can unlock. So there's a fried egg, there's a poached egg, and a hard-boiled egg. And then if you start cheering with the bits, which requires actual money, it's okay if you don't have actual money, that's fine. But if you do and want to support the channel, you can use the bits to cheer, and then you can unlock the eggs that have faces on them. Like the hard-boiled egg has an angry face, and the poached egg has a sad face because it's crying. But yeah, that's the update about emotes. Oh, I forgot. There's also a new thing that I introduced to this channel, which is channel points. And so for every chat that you send and for however long that you've been spending here with me and Leah, you gain points. And so you can redeem those points for more emotes. And then there are some games that we can play. There's one called Taste Test. So if you redeem a certain amount of points, I will interrupt the stream and go grab a random condiment from the fridge and eat it and explain to you what it is. So
I wish I could be part of that. I'm totally into, speaking of like 90s food things, I'm very much into a taste test. Like, you know, we switched the coffee with Folgers to see if people could notice a difference. So like I do that, my husband and I, my son and I, we do that all the time where we'll buy like 3 of something, chocolate bars or whatever it is. And then we'll like blind taste test all 3 things. So I just love a taste test.
Oh man, speaking of which, Gwen redeemed a taste test right now. So let me go. I'm gonna, while I'm doing this, that plate on the screen is my dinner from the other night. It is Baharat spiced potatoes. So Baharat is a North African spice. And I roasted those potatoes. And then
is that fresh ricotta?
Kind of. It is a Filipino cheese called quesong puti, and it is very similar to the process of making ricotta, but this one is a mix of heavy cream, milk, and then kind of aged or just rested in some banana leaves. So banana leaves impart the very subtle flavor to the cheese. So I've covered it with some Calabrian chili, some chili oil, and then next to it, which was kind of mind-blowing for me, excuse me, I've been obsessed with full mesdames, which is a fava bean dish, and I didn't have any fava beans or garbanzo beans in my house, and I only had mung beans, which is also very Filipino. And so it's mung beans cooked down and mashed with lemon, garlic, and tons of parsley. So this is kind of like a Mediterranean Filipino dish.
That sounds delicious.
Yeah.
I'm also obsessed with fava beans, and they're really hard to find. I mean, like I think the season for fava beans is really short. So to find like fresh fava beans is really tricky. In LA, we go to a lot of kind of like, Persian or like Middle Eastern grocery stores, and then we can buy frozen fava beans. We also go to, I don't know if you remember from being here, there was Northgate Market, which is in Culver City, and it's kind of like a Latino grocery store. If you're in and you have not been to Northgate Market, just get yourself to Northgate Market in Culver City. It's amazing. It's just like a massive Latino grocery store, but they also, for some reason, the Latino grocery store and the Mediterranean markets have fava beans, and then they're almost impossible to find anywhere else in LA.
Yeah, I don't think we'll have any luck here until the farmers markets come back after the snow melts. I will say it was 39 degrees here and the snow is melting in my backyard. So I have some hope that we'll have our farmers markets back. But to interrupt our stream and do a taste, my very, very first taste test of the stream, thank you, Gwen, for redeeming your points. I made a Lao Gan Ma peanut pesto. So Lao Gan Ma is one of my favorite chili oils. And I was freelancing for Taste Magazine, Taste Cooking. And they asked me to develop 3 recipes using this chili crisp. If you're not familiar, it's a red jar. Actually, I should just get it, right? It's a red jar that has this kind of stern-looking Chinese woman on it. It translates to godmother sauce, but it's a very savory umami condiment that you can put on anything. It's quite mild in spice. But I made a peanut pesto because there's a lot of peanuts in Szechuan and Chinese cuisine, and kind of mixing it with a spaghetti was really fun and interesting, like nodding back to Italian history and where they got the idea from China for noodles. But anyway, here's the pesto. It's got lots of basil, crunchy peanut, the chili crisp, which I folded in at the last minute because we don't want to pulverize all those little crunchy bits. We still want them to be really crisp. And so I'm going to have a spoonful of it. It's very savory. It's just like a pesto, but with a little more punch.
That sounds good.
I wish I had a thing of bread.
Participate in this taste test.
Yeah. So next time, I'm only allowing one taste test per stream. It's limited there on the points, but next week, someone else can redeem the taste test. That was very enjoyable. Thank you, Gwen. And I will try not to put my spoon back into the container because that's gross. All right. Continuing on. That was my dinner the other night. It was a little spicy. My ears are a little tingly. I had the leftover mung bean with all that like fresh lemon and garlic, and then just put an egg on it for breakfast in the morning, and it was great. And I know that a lot of you in the chat are fans of the eggs. Can I have some eggs in the chat, please? Fried eggs in the chat. Hey, Robert, thanks for joining today. Good to see ya. What else? I redecorated. This is a joke that I posted on Twitter. I just redecorated, just put a bunch of candy in it.
That's very Khloe Kardashian. I don't know if you know, like, did you watch the episode when, this is like totally random, and I haven't seen every episode of Keeping Up with the Kardashian, but I did watch the one where she stacked her Oreos. And she has these like giant, like basically what you have, only like 3 times as big. And the Oreos are stacked and staggered. So it kind of creates like this brick wall effect. And apparently she does it herself. Like this is not something that she passes off to like, you know, maid or cook or whatever to do. And it just like, I don't know, this was maybe like 5 years ago. I saw like one episode and it was the episode where Khloe Kardashian stacked her Oreos. And I was like, I'm alternately like impressed and also like a little bit concerned because it may be like a touch kind of OCD.
Yeah.
Like, because it was very time consuming, but it was beautiful and very elaborate. So
I need to dig this up because I've never actually seen an episode of Keeping Up with the Kardashians. I've never seen it.
And now it's ending. I don't know that you need to catch up on it, but
I just want to see that.
Khloe Kardashian stacking Oreos, and you'll know what I'm talking about.
Okay. I mean, I appreciate all kinds of food pop culture. This was my lunch from today. This is a savory sticky rice called shoyman, and it's basically sticky rice that's made in the rice cooker, and then you can fold in whatever you want, really. And so I had Chinese sausage, crispy garlic, and scallions, and then I did big glops of like oyster sauce. And so it's very hearty, and I don't have to think about it too much. You just stir it all together into a big mush. But it was delicious. Alternatively, if you do end up making this is a recipe on my Patreon. You can wrap them in banana leaves and freeze those, and then you can steam them whenever you need it or microwave them whenever you need it. So they're very freezable and delicious.
That looks awesome. I had a tamale, a Trader Joe's tamale, mostly because in between doing Zoom calls all day, I just had no time to fix lunch. And so it was literally like, microwaving a Trader Joe's tamale. But I'm jealous of your lunch and I wish I had taken more time with mine, but oh well. Yeah, that's life.
Yeah, I tend to go toward convenience foods when I'm crunching myself. I got a fruit order today. These are also right in front of me, but I'm showing you the picture. These are tiny, tiny baby bananas. Those on the right are like these golden plums. And then I got a green papaya to make a papaya pickle that my aunt taught me how to make. We use that as kind of like a tropical sauerkraut, if you can imagine. But yeah, I had a big fruit delivery today and excited for these to ripen a little bit more so I can eat them.
Are the bananas within reach? Because I feel like the scale is tricky to see in this photo, whereas I feel like if you held one up, you would actually be able to see the size of this.
They're small.
Oh yeah.
They're babies. They're like big fingers.
Oh yeah.
Babies.
Really fat, like big bananas. Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, like little, diminutive, but chunky.
Yeah, my family likes to make sweet egg rolls with these, and then they get candied on the outside, which is really yummy.
Ooh.
But these need to ripen a lot more. They need to be yellow and like more like how a plantain is ripened, like black.
Okay.
But yes, big fruit delivery today. I'm trying to eat more fruit. I get really salty sometimes, and I need to. Oh, this is really funny. I said motherhood. That was my caption. It's a 25-pound bag of flour
Awesome.
that arrived today.
Love it. I feel like especially if you went back to like March 2020, we would have all been very jealous of this 20-pound bag. Remember, like you couldn't buy flour.
No.
So
yeah. I actually, because I was late to the game with baking, I ended up doing more quick bread. So like scallion pancakes and naan. It's like smaller stuff instead of like sourdough. But today a 25-pound bag landed in my apartment. And so I'm going to be making tons of pound cake for a book I'm working on.
Oh,
very exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's see also what you've sent along.
Oh, yes. Okay, so this was a couple of weeks ago. Like I said, I have a young son, and he was on TikTok. He kind of like cycles through different platforms and whatever, depending on what's popular with like kids at that point. But we have tried a lot of different TikTok recipes because he sees stuff on TikTok and then he's like, oh, can we try this? And some of them have been like not quite as healthy. We definitely did the like exploding hot cocoa chocolate bombs.
I saw that.
Yeah, that I actually bought from a friend because I was going to have to buy the molds, and I was like, do I really want to invest in all of the equipment that is going to go into making these, or do I just want to like buy them? So a friend of a friend was making those like hot cocoa bombs, so I just got them off of him. We tried the blue cloud bread. And cloud bread is not that good. It looks really pretty and it looks like fluffy clouds, but I'm here to tell you that I'm sorry, if you have
cloud bread truther.
If you are gluten intolerant or there's like some sort of like issue where you can't eat gluten, absolutely, and cloud bread's your only option, then that's totally fine. I think just as like, but as a general rule, I do not love cloud bread that much. But then he was like, oh, I want to make ratatouille based on like the ratatouille memes that were and the musical and everything on TikTok. And I was like, oh, ratatouille, like super healthy, all these vegetables. Yes. So this was just like pre-baking, and it's basically you put like a layer of, you have to like make a tomato sauce, like kind of like almost like a spaghetti sauce basically on the bottom. And then you slice up tomato, green zucchini, yellow zucchini, eggplant, a bunch of, I think I used parsley, basil, probably thyme, like whatever's growing in my garden. Basically, I have like a little herb garden outside, and then a ton of garlic and olive oil. And then you put it in the oven, and the whole, like the top gets all kind of, the vegetables get all kind of like roasted and melty. If you are looking at this and you're like, oh, she was able to feed her child all these vegetables, I'll be totally honest. He loved the concept, and once I took it out of the oven and he tried it, and he was like, I don't really like this that much. I don't want to eat this. And I was like, oh yeah, dang, it's good. So what I did is I put the whole thing in the blender and pureed it, and it just turned into like the most luscious, sauce that we use, like pasta sauce, pizza sauce, like there was so much of it.
Oh my gosh, what a great idea.
Yes. So it makes beautiful photos to make it like this, but then I have to be honest that like it didn't go over that well. And
with the kids, yeah.
with the kids, or even like as a grown-up, I was kind of like, well, what do I do with this mound of vegetables now? Like, do I put it on pasta, or what do I do with it? So like, honestly, I thought the best thing to do was just to like blend it all together and just make like this amazing, delicious sauce that has like a very kind of like basil eggplanty taste. Like it was such a good sauce. So
oh, you're getting some props here from Robert. Oh my God, noms. And Toria says, it's beautiful.
Yeah, it was for photos. Like, I'm like, it was so easy. And then it just looks so picturesque.
Oh, you also have a bagel too.
This is a Montreal bagel. So, well, okay, let me say, I made this bagel. Like I actually baked the bagel.
From scratch. Yes.
So, and I had to put sesame seeds on it because that is a Montreal bagel. It's a homemade Montreal bagel. So I don't know that's exactly what a bagel would look like if you went to a bakery in Montreal. But I was just like, I wasn't able to go home. I usually go home. I live in LA, but I go home every Christmas. We spend at least a week or two there and we get our fill of bagels. And like, sometimes I go home in the summer. Obviously, because of COVID, we haven't been able to travel. And so I wasn't able to get bagels at Christmas time in Montreal. So this was like my effort at making my own bagels at home. And then obviously doing the capers and the salmon and the cream cheese. And like the big trick about me, I mean, it was really time consuming. If you love bagels, I would say make bagels. I don't think that they turned out any better than a bagel you could get in a store. So it was more kind of like, it was the first time I made bagels and it was fun. And there was a nostalgia factor because they were kind of like more Montreal style bagels. Would I make them again? I like in lockdown, yes. In regular life scenario, like I don't know that I necessarily would.
Yeah, busy. Let's see. I'm gonna jump around here. No. Well, you know what? Let's go for it. You got a board here. Tell us what was this board for, and what's going on.
So I have to credit. I love platters and boards, and I have just always made like, different boards and stuff. And then I was working at a company where we did a bunch of video shoots with different food influencers. And one of them, her name is Sarah Gim. Her Instagram handle is The Delicious.
Okay.
Yeah. So she like got that word, The Delicious. So if you look her up on Instagram, The Delicious, she is kind of like my, I don't know, like I always tell her, I'm like, I want to be you when I grow up. I mean, I am grown up, but like, essentially she is who I aspire to be. She works very hard at it though. So like what I've noticed is like, this was just my photo. I think I kind of like took it from the side. She came over, she like turned off the lights, the way that she took like the way that she's so smart in the way that she looks at food. And so she had actually come over. This was kind of like just a meze platter that we made because she was coming over to eat with us. But like the photos I took, and then just like the concepts or the ideas she had of like how she took photos of the food and what she did with it. And I've been at like, I was at a party or at like an event with her, and it was kind of the same thing where just like her mind just works in different ways, and like the uniqueness with which like she photographs food. So I aspire to be her. I will never be her. But in the meantime, I have like a ton of different like charcuterie boards and platters and things. And I do my best to like do my version, my kind of like Lunchables version of like, it's just always a little bit more low key. It's not quite, I'm not a food influencer. So it's like not quite as artfully arranged. But yeah,
I think it's gorgeous.
But this was like a Greek kind of like meze. There's like white bean salad. There's scordalia, which is like garlic potato. Yeah, do you love scordalia?
Yes,
I didn't even give you an option to like say whether you'd had it. I was just like, do you love it?
It stings, and I love it.
Because if you've had it, you love right. It's like I love garlic. So scordalia is kind of like a whipped potato garlic dip. There's tzatziki. That's the one kind of in the foreground there that's white. Like, so we made tzatziki. We made it looks like chicken cutlets, but it's actually halloumi, the cheese. So it's fried cheese,
You put it in
which is
panini press?
No, we have a Le Creuset, like a cast iron
Oh,
grill pan.
got it.
So we made it in that. I think there's like might be like anchovies. There's octopus. My husband's really good at making octopus. I can't take credit for the octopus. He actually makes like the bomb octopus, and so it's kind of like a team effort. And I think I cut up a bunch of veggies. There's like the pink stuff is watermelon radish,
Yes.
which I feel is like so
Oh, it's so pretty.
if you've like seen any food platters on Instagram, you've seen a watermelon radish. And then I think the back, I think I made a red pepper dip. That's the red one.
Oh, like the muhammara, kind of. Is that what it's called?
I do not know. I think I kind of like just kind of threw some stuff together that I felt was going to be good, but I don't know what muhammara is.
I think it's a red pepper dip, but
Okay.
probably with the addition of pomegranate molasses. But I don't think did you use that?
Oh, no. But there is a store out in Encino that sells pomegranate molasses because somebody mentioned that to us. And so we were like at this grocery store. I think it's called like Sasabe or something like that. And it's in Encino and they have pomegranate molasses. And we're like, oh, we should buy this, but what would we do with it?
Oh
So
yeah, so in the red pepper puree, and then also roasting chicken or roasting vegetables. It's just a
okay.
good finisher and like lacquer on things. Um,
Ooh.
but as far as charcuterie and cheese go, I've written a bunch of articles about kind of my food styling philosophy. So um, I I styled my own cookbook and have worked with a bunch of magazines on a lot of spreads like this. And so there are different sort of schools of styling that you can think about. And I think what sets apart a lot of the influencers these days is sort of having their own personal art style and art direction, like the way that you were speaking about your friend, like
You can call
um,
her the delicious. It's like
the
her name is Sarah,
delicious.
but I always refer to her as like the delicious. Yeah.
I mean, the way that she hovers around the board, the way they adjust the light, the filters that they use, that's very unique to each person. I have my own little magic mix also, but I have a few articles I could share later with everybody on Twitter of sort of the different ways that you can approach stuff like this. Like you can be Lunchable style, which is knolling or very straight and narrow, like lineup stuff and like very obvious pairings, or you can be more of these maximalist boards that are more flowing into each other and sort of direct people to different key things on the plate, like the ramekins are focal points, the big bowl's a focal point, and so all the vegetables are sort of pointing toward these things, and there's a lot that goes into it, and it's very fun. But if you want to read more about it, I will share those articles later.
Is, and I do have to give one. So the delicious, if you're like watching and you're looking for like a kind of charcuterie or layout person, so the delicious is kind of, she's my queen. I love her. There's also a company in LA called Lady and Larder.
Oh, I
And I
never
don't know
heard.
if you've ever checked them out. So they started out as, it's two sisters that are twins and their brother, and they were doing, it was kind of a side hustle. The family's like in the restaurant business, and then they started doing like a side hustle of selling like charcuterie boards and stuff, kind of similar to you. And then in the last year, actually during the pandemic, they opened a Lady and Larder in LA. I think it's in Venice. Um,
Oh,
and so they have like this little business, and the best thing is like they're so awesome, and they work with like very much with the community, and they also set up a thing where you could buy directly from farmers and you'd get like a farmer's box
oh,
that they like kind of acted as a distributor for the farmer's box, but just like they weren't actually, you Venmoed the farmer, but you were able to pick it up at Lady and Larder. So they do a really amazing work, and I would highly recommend everybody also check out their Instagram style, which, as you said, is like very unique to them. I see a Lady and Larder board and I'm like,
I know
oh,
that.
this is them. Like I know who did this. So yeah, I love them. I don't know if you have any recommends for like that you can think of off the top of your head in terms of like Instagram
Oh yeah,
food
that
people
cheese
that,
bite is one of them. Or just
okay.
following the hashtag cheese board on Instagram is very active. And sometimes it gets taken over by angry vegans. But
Oh,
I also post to that pretty regularly.
okay.
But yeah, this
Awesome.
it's something that I enjoy, and the design philosophy that was passed on to me from my mentor, who is Monica Byrne. She is a wedding caterer up in upstate New York, and she wanted rustic, height, drama, and that you just shaved it off the animal. That's kind of her motivating mantra for me when I was like styling cakes.
I like that. I like, honestly, if there were, if I could go back and do my life all over again, I would either be a charcuterie board artist, or I don't know what else, but that is probably what I would do with my life if I could go back and do it all over again.
Let's shift to baking. You had a really good tip before we started the stream. Can you tell us what this is and also why you use this specific pan?
Yes. So this is it's like a lemon olive oil cake with like a kind of like a lemon glaze over the top, but it's made in a bundt pan. And I have just a prop here because I got this like Nordic ware, which is like I like Nordic ware because they're made in the US. And so like I like it because it's I feel like buy local or buy national kind of.
Yeah.
I like that there's a company that makes these. Buy a bundt pan, especially if you're not a really big baker. One of the biggest problems anybody has with making homemade cakes, not kind of, like cake in a box, because usually those are like pretty much foolproof. But if you're making a cake from scratch, like a pound cake or any other kind of cake, even a cheesecake, one of the problems with cakes is that often the middle won't cook. And so, it looks cooked and you take it out because you feel like the outside is like really cooked or the top is really golden and brown. And then you cut into it. And so often, I think the biggest problem I ever hear about is like the middle of the cake is not cooked. If you use a bundt pan, there is no middle of the cake. Like there is a thing, in the middle that is kind of like that tube. So it removes the middle of the cake and therefore just creates this like basically like dummy proof kind of cake vehicle. So the middle of your cake will never be undercooked because there is no middle. So I started like now, I used to only make like things like, coffee cake or like things that were like obviously supposed to be made in a bundt pan. And now that I've just realized that like how easy it is, I just make every single cake, like virtually almost every single cake, unless it's like a sheet cake, everything else, bundt pan.
Fun.
Okay, fun. Even stuff where they're like, use a spring form, use a whatever.
Nah.
Bundt is just like, you can't go wrong. It produces a beautiful cake every single time.
And from the science point of view, what that center does, and for a lot of donut shaped things, like this even applies to aging cheese, but it creates more surface area in the pan so that the heat distribution, that's why it cooks so well in that center area, is because you've created a whole nother side that the heat can circulate through. And so there's airflow through the middle. And so that's another reason.
Thank you for applying some science and actual like facts behind my impassioned plea for everybody.
Yeah. And the same thing works with aging cheeses. And so a cheese that's cut in a donut shape is going to age differently than a cheese that is just solid cake. And so it'll create different flavor profiles that way because the air is circulating through the middle, which is also interesting. Hello to Shmas, who's joined us in the chat. Shmas is one of our longtime viewers and contributes greatly to the last segment of the show that we will get to eventually. But we are talking about baking, and we talked a while about charcuterie boards and plating and stuff and social media. And so we're just going through some photos that Leah has sent through. And then maybe one more here. Do you want to do the Laker cake, the pizza, or I think it's pancakes? Which one?
We can do the pizza. I mean, I don't know how many LA people you have. Like I'd say for the LA people, like a Laker cake, but otherwise, so during the pandemic, you mentioned earlier, like people getting into sourdough. I tried sourdough. I tried to create my own sourdough starter a bunch of times at the beginning of the pandemic. I think that because I live in LA, it's too warm, or maybe my apartment is too humid. It wasn't working, and the starter kept going moldy. And so finally I was like, okay, never mind. Instead of trying to master sourdough, which everybody's doing, I'm going to master pizza dough. And so I eat pizza almost every week. And so I was like, okay, but I've always ordered pizza. I don't make my own pizza. My favorite pizza in LA is at places like Mozza, Stella Barra, Pitfire Pizza. And it's
I've
a
never
very
done
kind
any of those.
oh, all amazing and all very kind of like fluffy, sourdoughy type crust. So I found Nancy Silverton, who's the person that like co-founded Mozza and is just like a very, and La Brea Bakery and all of these
Oh,
things, like
yes.
kind of like an LA institution. So she has a pizza recipe, the Nancy Silverton pizza dough recipe. And so I was like, okay, that's going to be my like not sourdough bread, but it's going to be like, I'm going to use yeast and create like a fresh from scratch pizza dough. And so, and I do have to say, if you look up the Nancy Silverton pizza dough recipe, do not be dismayed or overwhelmed by how many different like things there are. I'm very much a like, what I have in my kitchen is how we are going to make this work.
Right.
And so it calls for all kinds of like different flours. And the very first couple of times I made it, I was like, I have all purpose flour. Like that is what we are using. So we're not going to make a mix of like, I can't remember, it was like some barley flour.
00.
Yeah, all these different things. And I'm like, no, all purpose flour. The other thing, it called for, oh gosh, I'm blanking on what it was, but it was like some sort of sweetener. And I just used honey.
Yeah.
Like you were supposed to use like, I can't remember, like,
or sorghum or
yeah, some other kind of like thing. And I was like, honey, we have honey, so we're going to use honey. So I've kind of like, yeah, it's just like I've simplified it down to like it's flour, it's water, it's yeast, it's honey, and then some salt. And like that's it. What everything else is just like kind of extraneous. And now since then I've made it with like all kinds of different like you said, like different types of flour, bread flour, pizza flour, all purpose. And like honestly, just using and I'm not making this professionally, so it's not like I have to turn out 100 pizzas a night. If you're making it at home, just like drill it down and make it the simplest thing possible. Her recipe makes about 4 pizza or like dough.
That's good to know.
Yeah, for 4 pizzas. So typically like we'll make 1 or 2 and then put the rest in the fridge or freezer. It actually, it tastes better. Like if you've made the dough, it tastes better 2 days later. So Thursday night, I make a regular pizza with, sometimes there'll be like tomato sauce, olives, garlic, kind of like depending on what we're in the mood for and what we have in the house. That's Thursday night. And then the rest of the pizza dough, we got into the habit of making like Saturday or Sunday morning, we would make a breakfast pizza. And so this is the breakfast pizza with very like shaved thinly potatoes. Bacon or pancetta. And again, if you don't have pancetta, just use bacon. Putting that in the oven, and then similar to what you were talking about was like cracking an egg, like kind of midway cooking, cracking an egg, putting it back in the oven and cooking until the eggs are just kind of solid or not too runny.
Yeah.
And honestly, I would say probably breakfast. Like I think I love breakfast pizza even more than I love regular, cheese and tomato sauce.
Yeah. Pizza. Oh, catching up here in the chat, Steph says, it looks happy to see you. LOL.
It does kind of look like a smiley face.
Shma says, flour was way more valuable than gold early pandemic times. Who had the resources to use multiple flours? I endorse that comment, +1. And then Robert says, breakfast pizza, 4 exclamation points, let me tell you. That's a lot of emphasis on this pizza.
Awesome.
It is gorgeous, and I kind of want to make this now. I have all the ingredients. Yes. But okay, we already did mine. We did yours. We did what people sent in. So everybody, thank you for sending in so much stuff. That kept us busy for a long time. My goodness. If you'd like to be featured on the stream next time, please tag me on Instagram or DM them to me on Twitter. Either way, just make sure it gets to me before next Wednesday, and I'll happily put them in my folders here on the desktop. Okay, I'm gonna stop looking at my phone for the chat. But we'd love to answer any baking questions you all have in the chat. Like, please let us know. But in the meantime, Leah, I didn't know that you were kind of a pastry chef before all this social media stuff. Like, how'd you get into that? How'd you make that decision?
Yeah, that was when I was in Montreal in university. I was going to McGill University, and I also love to bake, and so I kind of temporarily thought, oh, maybe I don't want to finish university. I really want to be like a pastry chef. And especially like in Montreal, it's very like the French tradition. It's very kind of like traditional classic pastries and lots of puff
Mm.
pastry and swans filled with
Oh
cream and
yeah.
eclairs and,
Food
all.
pastry.
Yes, it's very, very kind of like, I would say like a little bit more old school kind of Euro pastry tradition. And so I signed up for like full on pastry school, but it was like a professional program that you could do while you were going to
At night.
university. So, right, it was like nights and weekends. So like nights and weekends, I did baking during the day, went to school, and I did it for 6 months, and I kind of feel bad, but what I realized is that especially the type of pastry, because it was just that very like kind of stuffy French, very traditional type pastry. I did 6 months of a 1 year program. And I was
Mm.
like, I don't want to wake up every morning and pipe choux pastry swans and fill
At
them with
like
cream.
3 a.m.,
Right,
right?
at,
It's like
at 3
3 a.m.
a.m. But it was just like, it was the type of cooking. And I think, granted, this was also like a little while ago. I think, maybe now, maybe people are doing more kind of pushing the boundaries and whatever. At the time, I was just like, the only path forward is I was like, I'm going to end up probably working at like a hotel, maybe a fancy hotel, but like I'm going to end up working at a hotel making like very fancy French pastries for very wealthy people. And like, it's just not my vibe. And it's kind of not what I want to do. So I got halfway through the program so I can make all kinds of things and sauces and like creme anglaise
Mm.
and creme pâtissière and like all the doughs and all the different things. But I was like, I don't want to spend every day of my life doing this. But it was good. I'm glad I did it. I still love, like we said at the beginning, you're savory, I'm sweet. Like I'm like, I wish cake was not like so filled with sugar because I know sugar's not great for you. But I'm like, if I could, I would just eat dessert every day for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And there was a lot of that during the pandemic. I got to be honest. And now I'm kind of like not the wisest choice because it's not the healthiest for you, but it is what I love to make. And if I could avoid just making regular food ever again, I would only make dessert and just have dessert all the time. And that's what makes me happy. So,
Similar realization as you, it like multiple times in my life actually. Like I was a biology major, and I was standing in the lab titrating. I don't know if you know what titrating is. Oh god, it's how you mix solutions. So if I were coming up with the cure for something, you have to know drop by drop what you're adding. And so you literally add a drop of something, and then you take notes. And then you add another drop of something, and you take more notes. And after 100 drops of no change, it drives a person crazy. And so I I was like, I don't think I can imagine my adult life spent inside in this damn lab. I'm not doing this. And I had also the same realization at culinary school, when this French chef was yelling at me. I was sweating, and then I already had a job lined up. And so I was kind of like, why am I paying thousands and thousands of dollars when I already have a job lined up and I've already gone to college? Like, I don't, I don't need this again.
yeah.
And also, I learned that my style of cooking is not best exercised in a brigade style restaurant kitchen. I'm more of a one-to-one client creative chef. Like I like to make custom things once ever and like change the menu again. Like consistency is not something that I do.
Yeah.
At least in technique I do. I'm consistent with technique, but not my menus. My menus are different every time. And so I had that same like, I don't know if I want to do this full time. And then so I left and didn't finish culinary school, but I feel good about the decisions that I made.
Right. I think it's like it's different for everybody. Some people get into it. Some people like love culinary school and do it and go on and are very happy. But it's just like, yes, it is a certain type of person. And like you talked about, like the repetitive nature of things. If you feel like, okay, I want to make this same thing 1,700 times and it needs to be perfect. And each time I improve, but it is the exact same thing. And it's just like, that's a type of personality that like you either gravitate to that or you don't. And so it sounds like neither one of us were, yeah, that was not the path. That was not the way.
We got Schmoss here in the chat saying you're team dessert. Okay, everybody in the chat, are you team dessert? Are you team savory? Okay, let me know. Throw an egg in the chat also while you're there. But another question for you: what kind of frustrates you about baking? I can already tell you, for me, it's if you mess up, like that's it. Like you can't just last minute steer the ship another way like you could with a stir fry. Like I could adjust the salt or like add more vegetables. With a cake, it's like you've made this batter and it's reacting now. So
Yes,
that's
that is okay. That is true. I would say, and I know that sometimes I frustrate people because I am a little bit kind of loosey goosey with my, and this is why I never would have made it as like a French pastry chef. I am very kind of like, oh, we don't have that flour. All right, let's just put in this other flour. Or like, let's use light brown sugar instead of dark brown sugar. Like I'm not very precious about ingredients or like, I do like good ingredients. Like I think like the better quality stuff you use, the better your cake or your whatever is going to come out. It's like obviously like using good ingredients, but in terms of like sometimes I just feel like especially baking is very precious and it's very like, you know, sift the flour. And sometimes I'm just like, I don't have time to sift the flour and maybe it'll make it a little lighter and fluffier, but like I just don't have time. So I just kind of dump everything in. Like I would say like use a bundt pan. So that cake never goes wrong if you use a bundt pan. What frustrates me, there's certain things that I feel like I can't, okay, so my pizzas, I'm very bad at pie and pizza. I cannot make a circle. Everything comes out lopsided. So for example, like with my pizza, I will press it out and I will kind of like, you know, shape it and toss it in the air and whatever. And it's like an oblong or it's a weird shape or whatever. I had the same thing. At Christmas, I got like a pie cookbook and I was like, this is 2021 is going to be the year of pie for me. I'm just going to make a ton of pies. And I could not roll out the dough into a circle that fit nicely. So it's like, I ended up having to like put the pie dough in the pie plate and then kind of like crimp all the dough and fix it together. And so I don't know, I'm circle deficient. So I cannot make a circle and that frustrates me.
I mean, I've had a lot of practice, and I also cannot make a perfect circle. But I have a friend, Sam, who went to the Natural Gourmet, which was the vegetarian culinary school here, and it got absorbed by the International Culinary Center, I think, or I don't remember the exact acronym. But she taught me the roll forward, turn the dough 90 degrees, roll forward. I mean, that's the closest I got.
Like, I get it. I get the like, like roll the dough and then shift and roll. And so theoretically, that is how you should be able to do it. But yes, I just, I don't know.
Not meant to do that. We're not meant to make perfect circles. If it's a perfect circle, you used another tool.
Yes,
you cheated.
exactly.
Like there are cutting boards that do have shapes and like rulers that might be able to help us land there a little easier, but honestly, like I have a lot of circle cutters, so once I've rolled it out to the thickness I need, I have templates that I can just like a plate, you know, just put it over and trace it out and be like, okay, that's what we're doing.
And perfection is overrated. I think like I'm very much like, I love, like when you go to a bakery, I like things that are like very kind of like 50s old fashioned, like bars and like cakes and just things that are like brownies and just like big, messy, globby, crumbly type things that are just delicious. That's kind of like more my style than something that's very, I have an appreciation. I love French pastry. I love Japanese pastry, and like everything's very like exquisite and beautifully done. I love it and I will eat it and I will enjoy it. But I'm like, for me, I'm just kind of more of like a messy, I don't know, maybe Nigella Lawson style. Bung it all together.
In that school of pastry, if I do make pastries, I'm a fan of a galette that doesn't have a perfect shape. I like folding over those uneven edges.
Yes. If anybody doesn't know what a galette is, it's basically a pie where you make the dough, you put berries or whatever good apples in the middle, and then you just like literally you put it on a baking sheet and you fold over the edges of the pie dough. So it's like a kind of like, I don't know.
Dumpling
Yes.
turnover thing.
Yes. Galette is like, it's awesome. It's the way to go.
Pie without the tin. Yeah.
Yes.
We got a story here from Schmas. Tried to work in a restaurant and the chef threw a pot at you and you rage quit the next day. That's not the best experience. I agree that's not the best experience. I'm not that kind of chef that yells or throws tantrums in my kitchen. I apologize. Like, I can't believe you had to go through that. But nobody should have to go through that. I think that's like a lot of the sort of masculine, like angry energy that we're trying to not tamp down, but like eliminate in industrial kitchens these days. Like a lot of the Me Too movement has helped sort of out a lot of people and kind of equalize the experiences that we're having in kitchens. But no, there's no reason you should be throwing things at anyone in a kitchen. That's not cool. Not cool at all. Oh, he quit. Oh my gosh. Sorry, I just told the story. He quit the next day. Well, yeah, doesn't belong in that kitchen. And I agree. Nobody can talk about food like Nigella. I agree. Nigella is very fun to listen to. I really love her voice. But we are getting to near the end of the stream, and that means it's time for our little mental exercise. Friends, let's pretend we are on Chopped. If you don't know this TV show, there is a basket with 4 mystery ingredients in it, and chefs have to use them to make a dish. In our case, you in the chat will tell us what's in the basket, so please start shouting out ingredients for us to put in this lovely little mystery basket. The first 4 that you mention will be the ones that we use. There are no wrong answers. The purpose of this exercise is to think about how far ingredients can go and maybe inspire your next meal. So I'll also go through each individual ingredient so that everybody knows what we're working with, but feel free to just start spitting out ideas how you'd combine 2, 3, or even all 4 of the ingredients. No pressure whatsoever. Imagine that you have a basic pantry and all the tools and time that you need. So it's not like you have 30 minutes to get everything done. We have like the last 15 minutes of the show, but in the imaginary world, pretend you're like on an island and that you're wanting to feature the things in the basket and you have a goat or something that you can make milk, that kind of stuff. Let's see. Already from Robert, we've got mini sweet peppers. From Gwem, we've got cocoa powder. Schmoss says AP flour, very relevant to our conversation. And then one more ingredient, if anyone has a thought, that would be amazing. So I'll just start with sweet peppers here. They're small. They don't have a lot of capsaicin, meaning that they're not spicy. They can be eaten raw. They can be chopped in every which way into rings, minced into batons. They can be roasted. They can be blistered. They can be pureed. They can be so many things. Like, how would you approach sweet peppers, Leah?
Okay, well, I heard sweet peppers and then the next one was cocoa. So I'm going to just throw out one of my favorite things to make is caponata. Which is like Italian. It's like tomatoes, peppers, olives, capers. It should have raisins in it, but I actually hate raisins. I'm sorry to the raisin people. Oh yeah, so I don't put raisins in anything, even if it calls for it. No raisins. But the best caponata, you can add a little cocoa and a little cinnamon. So it's got kind of like a Moroccan, like if you think of that kind of like, especially if you add the raisins, which we're not doing, but like if you think of like that kind of flavor profile of something that's like savory, but with like a little bit of sweetness.
Warm tones. It has
like kind of like warm tones. So I think like caponata, which I feel like there's a variation, like caponata is Italian, but I feel like almost every culture has that kind of like tomatoey, saucy, like the ratatouille, especially if you blend it and puree it, it's like kind of like a vegetable medley with some like extra rich tones to it. So I don't know if I would like put if we have to blend those ingredients, I would say maybe the peppers and the cocoa, like a little bit of cocoa. Um, I feel like what are other things? I don't know if I'm like obsessing on the cocoa and trying too hard to make the cocoa work, but I'm like mole, especially like
Yes.
mole with peppers.
We can
How we
definitely
add,
do that. Yeah, mole
yeah,
with the pepper base. The chocolate is always added at the end in a mole. Everything else is cooked down for a while before that, so you can bring out the sugars. But that is a great idea.
so a lot of times I like, true confession, I buy my mole, like I go to the store and I usually
Understandable.
buy like a mole or whatever. And then recently I wanted to make mole and I didn't have time to run out and get something. So I was just looking up on YouTube. And there was somebody who made, and I don't remember who it was, but she did like a great job. And she made like a very fast, I would say like 30-minute mole. And
Ooh.
she put Hershey's in the mole. And I was like, I'd always thought like, oh, like fancy, like cocoa or whatever you put in. And she put Hershey's in her mole. And I was like, oh, really? So I tried it and it was actually pretty good. I don't know that that would like now become my standard go-to mole, but for like a fast 30-minute mole, I thought that that was really good. So I think if
Mm.
you look up on YouTube, just like fast mole recipes with Hershey chocolate in it, I had Hershey chocolate because that's what we make s'mores with. So we have like in the back of the cupboard, there's like, we just constantly always have s'more makings. Not that we have s'mores that much, but when you want it, it's like graham crackers, Hershey's, and marshmallows. Like it's just kind of a classic
I'm all about it. I love s'mores
combo.
myself.
So yeah,
Oh, okay. So what else we have in the basket? We have cocoa powder. So I'm reading this, dry cocoa solids are the components of cocoa beans remaining after cocoa butter. The fatty component of the bean is extracted from chocolate liquor, roasted cocoa beans that have been ground into a liquid state. Cocoa powder is what's in the basket is a powdered form of the dry solids with a small remaining amount of the cocoa butter. Untreated cocoa powder is bitter and acidic. Dutch processed cocoa has been treated with an alkaline to neutralize the acid. I actually didn't know the difference there, so thank you for
yeah,
introducing.
nor did I. Yeah.
Um, let's see. You can do a lot of things with cocoa powder. You can dust things. We can put it in sauces. We can toast it even further to develop that flavor. We can constitute it with a liquid. It doesn't have to be water. It could be a dairy or it could be a broth of some sort. So all kinds of sauce possibilities here. We could make a syrup out of it if we added more sugar and things. And the third ingredient so far that we've got in the basket, we have room for one more, but if it's okay if you're already brainstorming things to make with all three. But AP flour has tons and tons of applications. We've mentioned a bunch of them throughout the course of this stream, from pizza to cakes to cookies. And I don't know, what else can you do with flour? You can toast it to make a roux, which is a
Yes.
sauce thickener. So if we were going with the mole idea and if it was a little watery, we could thicken it with a flour roux. Or we could do like an alfredo and then also like thicken it with with the roux. So flour has like a ton of possibilities. You can use it to dust things before you deep fry them. So I'm already thinking that we could get these sweet peppers, stuff them with something fun like a ricotta cheese or a melty cheese like a Swiss cheese, dust it in some AP flour and cocoa powder, dip it in some egg, dredge that, and then dip it in some crushed up chips or something, and then deep fry that, and we'll have stuffed peppers. That'd be really fun. Um,
That sounds amazing.
so I love playing this game of Chopped, how we would combine all these things. So in the chat, if you would like to start riffing, how would you combine sweet peppers, cocoa powder, and AP flour? So sorry if I stole someone's popper idea, but I got my idea from jalapeno poppers.
That's
These are just
smart. I would and I'm going to cheat again and just like separate out two of the ingredients. I would have the sweet peppers as a snack. Yum yum, eat my vegetables and then make a mug cake with the flour and the cocoa.
What's that?
Mug cake? like MUG, mug cake?
Oh, mug. Okay. I was
Mug,
like,
mug. Yeah, not yeah. I was like, wait, you haven't heard of mug cake?
no,
Like,
I've heard of mug cake.
okay, yeah. So no, sorry. I was just, I don't know. I feel like that's the other thing too, especially during the pandemic. It's just like not being able to go out, not always wanting to make like a huge cake for, that you're gonna have sitting around. So just making like a mug cake and just mixing some like cocoa and eggs and flour, maybe a little butter, and throwing that in the microwave. Um, I'm very into just kind of like that small single portion type of thing.
Yeah, less mess too.
Yes.
Does anyone else have any ideas in the chat? Like, and if you need a little help, the way that I like to think about this exercise is take something you already know how to make, like something that's very easy, and then can you switch something in? Like if you know how to make a BLT by heart, bacon, lettuce, tomato, can you switch in any or all of these things some way, somehow? And that is a great like jumping off point. And if you're still stumped and this is like really hard, but you get an idea next week, you can still tweet it to me and I'll be very happy to talk to you about it. So no pressure. This is just all for fun and to exercise our brains before dinner time. And I know that it's like only late afternoon for you, Leah. So you still have a lot of time to like.
But I am getting pretty hungry. So this whole conversation has just made me really, really hungry. But I think poppers is fun. I like the idea of like some sort of poppers. Like that sounds really good.
Like we were talking last week about yakitori, so the Japanese skewer situation. So that is grilled vegetables, and then it's dipped in a savory sauce. It's like a kind of like ponzu, but more of like a marinade situation. So we could kind of mimic that by doing some skewers of the sweet peppers, and then having like kind of a roasty, chocolatey soy sauce situation that we dip it in to finish, and then it has this like nice glazy thing on it. Ooh. Oh, we're getting some ideas here. So from Schmas, going off of your idea of caponata here, we could do like a chocolate pasta puttanesca with the peppers. Fascinating. I would try it. Yeah, I think we would have to watch the proportion there, but I think it would be really visually striking, I think. Yeah. Gwem says you could make a chili cocoa drink. Yes, we could do some hot chocolate with there's sweet pepper, so they'll get a little bit more caramelized, and they'll add more of that pepper flavor, but no spice. But that still goes really well with cocoa, so we could have a hot chocolate there. We could even do sweet pepper marshmallow to put on top. Hey, I just learned.
Sounds good.
Just last week, I made my first batch of marshmallows, and it kind of blew my mind because marshmallows I thought were some sort of like mystical thing that you're not supposed to know how to make.
Yeah.
But it is essentially gelatin that has been bloomed in a half cup of water, and then you whip. You have to have a stand mixer for this. You can't do this by hand. You whip in a sugar syrup that has been brought up to a hard I forget. It's 240. I remember the numbers. It's 240 degrees Fahrenheit. And then you let it cool down to 210. And that's when you start mixing it into the gelatin. And it starts whipping into this white, opaque marshmallow. And then you have to let it cure for 4 hours in the fridge before you cut it, because it doesn't come solid right away. And it retains so much heat from the sugar. But that's what marshmallows is. It's a
Was it good?
It's delicious. Tasty?
Yeah.
Whipped gelatin with a sugar syrup. And I learned that you can fold in stuff toward the end. And so I did jalapeno. So you could most definitely do a sweet pepper in that marshmallow. Let's see. We have another one from Schmas here. We could do like a chocolate souffle. Okay. And then make a fruity pepper coulis to go with it. Oh my goodness. Your brain was made for this, Schmas. I always look forward to this part of the stream because people are just like pew pew pew, good ideas. I want to try that. I haven't been successful with chocolate souffles because they're so delicate, but willing to try or make a lava cake. Yeah, we can make a lava cake that has a pepper lava flow coming out of it. That's so fun. That's
It's
so
so
fun.
funny. So my husband is like, said he was going to make chicken biryani tonight, and
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't know, but he had to go get onions because it's kind of like the base of the the flavors, like it takes a ton of onions. So right now I'm just looking at the clock and I'm like, I hope it was kind of like touch and
Oh,
go whether or not he was going to be able to go out and get onions. But I'm like literally so hungry that I'm like, I really hope when I get off the Zoom, I go out, he's bought onions and he is making chicken biryani for dinner because I'm starving now. And like, I think it's going to be an early dinner just because
we've
this
got your
whole
digestion going already. It's
yes,
like,
this whole call is just like made me really hungry.
oh my goodness. All right. Well, I think that brings us to the end of the stream. Thank you everybody for participating. Leah, how can people follow you online? And is there anything you'd like to plug?
Well, follow me on Twitter. Twitter's like my primary platform. So if you want to follow me there, it's Leah Haberman, LIAHABERMAN, just at Leah Haberman. And yeah, I like connect with me there. I don't have anything in particular to plug. Donate to No Kid Hungry. That's kind of like my if you're gonna spend any money, that's what I would push people towards. Like I'm very much about I just want to feed people and especially children. And so to me, like to make sure that children have enough to eat, like No Kid Hungry is a great organization. And I would say donate to them.
Yeah, wonderful. And then for me, I have a Patreon. It's patreon.com/randwiches. I update that. For $2 a month, you can get a recipe a week. So that's 4 recipes a month, and there are over 100 in there that you can browse, and all of the recipes are 5 ingredients or less. I'm also on a podcast called Fun City. It's at funcity.ventures. We actually are on a little bit of a recording break, but we are resuming new posts in 2 weeks, which is our mini series. We're playing a game called Stillfleet, which is based in space. Oh my goodness. But check all that out. I will tweet all of the highlights later, as well as some of the links that we've mentioned. Please make sure to follow Leah. Thank you all for being here and watching. I always love hanging out on Wednesdays. I've retweeted a couple of other streams that are starting at 7:30 and 8:30 p.m. Eastern, so you can check those out. Those are all tabletop RPG games that are going live later on this evening. But again, if you would like to be featured, please tag your photos on Twitter and Instagram with my handle, Randwiches, and I would love to feature it. More news about next week coming soon. I believe my next guest is Diego, Dandy in the Bronx, who streamed earlier. We're going to talk about Bronx food and the food that Diego has grown up with. So thank you, Leah, for doing this with me. And you can stay on the Zoom, but I'm going to end the stream right
Awesome.
now.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Bye, everybody.